New concepts and ideas to help you reach your full potential. Reach your full potential. Reach your full potential. Small win, small win, small win. Keep your momentum going.
The Success 101 Podcast.
Welcome to the Success 101 Podcast. This is your host, Jarrod Warren, and each episode, my goal is to bring you a new concept or idea to help you maximize your full potential. Thanks for joining me here today. Now let's kick things off. Hey guys, welcome back to the Success 101 Podcast, live episode number 45. As always, I'm your host, Jarrod Warren, along with Emilio Palafox, and I'm so excited about today's show, Emilio, as we get into what I would just say is a casual conversation about herbs, possibly some spices, depending on how the conversation goes, toward peak performance, inflammation, cellular development, all of those sort of things. I'm fired up about this because I think it's actionable steps for our listeners that they can take and use starting today. And there's just so much out there, as you know, Emilio, and as you guys listening in probably know, that people use. And, you've got to find what works for you. Some things that work for you may not work for us and vice versa. But there are some categories of herbs, I would say, that are just geared toward how the human body performs and what we're looking for in performance that tend to kind of work well for everybody, on some level, maybe, again, some more than others. Really excited to dive into that. And Emilio, I know that you have found a lot of favor with faux tea, also known as He Shou Wu. Let's not waste any time, man. Let's kick this thing off and just start grabbing the benefits here that can help a ton of people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm feeling charged today. And as always, excited to be on the podcast. Thank you all for listening. Yeah, I wanted to talk about He Shou Wu. Actually, I used to call it He Shou Wu until somebody corrected me. It was like, it's a huh kind of in there. So He Shou Wu. But, as in the past episodes, we were talking about cells in so many different ways and how to charge those cells and the mitochondria within those cells, the organelles within the cells, the nucleus and all this kind of stuff. And, when you start to really charge the cells and really help even just one cell, which helps another and another and another and another, you start to perform better. And so when I think about, well, what does that really do for a person? Well, of course, there's high performance, but there's also, big time in decrease in inflammation when that happens. There's this longevity increase. And so when I think about, okay, well, what can kind of translate into other podcasts? One of the main herbs that I know of and that I've been experiencing with for about 3 years now is the He Shou Wu. And I found this at a Bulletproof Biohacking conference 3 years ago. I think it was with Jing Herbs.
Yeah, Jing Herbs are great.
Yeah. And so, I tried it amongst a whole bunch of other things. And, one of the things you just mentioned right when we started is, of course, certain things work for certain individuals and some don't. And so you definitely got to experiment. I think a lot of things that we talk about in these podcasts is, let's experiment. We have a body. Let's see what works for us. Let's see what doesn't. Let's see what things we can compound and add and that are very synergistic to our lifestyle and our genes and epigenetics. To just take us to that higher level. And so that's why I wanted to talk today about He Shou Wu and just maybe about the various things that it does in our body and our lives and how it can just help us, take it to another level.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there that, I get comments all the time. I'm sure you do as well, where people say, wow, do you really blend all of this stuff into your day to day? Do you take some of it every now and then? I would say for me, whenever it comes to herbs and the ones that I stick with that I really like and that I've seen move the needle, that's pretty much going to be a daily thing, unless something else comes up in a different form or a different blend or something new that I want to try, but it's still going to stick around that same idea. And I think one of the things that we need to give the listeners as well before we forget is just the actual version of these types of things that we're taking that could be helpful for their day-to-day performance. So talk to us, since we're on this topic of faux tea or He Shou Wu.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, you mentioned Jing Herbs, right? So you're taking the, I'm sure the extract powder.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about how you're doing that, how you're blending it up, what the real benefits are you found from it, and why you continue to go back to it.
I use it in different ways. Again, I've been trying it for the past 3 years. The He Shou Wu extract, I've been mixing with Dragon Herbs or Jing Herbs. Both are great brands, and I'm not tied to any of them. It's just something that I've tried out and love. From what I remember correctly, I started off with about 50 milligrams of the extract powder, and then I believe Jing Herbs has one that's 250 grams. So I started with 50, and then there's one that's 250 grams. And just like anything else, I'll kind of increase it, see what happens, decrease it, see what happens, things of that nature. But I'll put it in my bulletproof coffee. I'm a bulletproof coach, and I love my bulletproof coffee, but I'll also mix it with some tea sometimes. I'll mix it with some smoothies. What's good about this is that it has like a mild earthy flavor. So that's why you can put it into really any of your favorite drinks. Sometimes I'll just put it in water. You can sprinkle it on wherever you like. But what's good about one of the main reasons why I like this, before I kind of go on and talk about, all the benefits of this, is that when I think about energy and generating energy, I don't want it to be like an energy like, oh my God, I feel like I need to run around the world right now, around the block, and I'm like jittery and things of that nature. For me anyway, I like things that are kind of help calm the nervous system and really kind of an energizing yet calming effect, kind of like a good balance. And so that's actually one of the reasons why I like the He Shou Wu, is because it's not a stimulant. It's kind of a mild sedative, and it will help calm the nervous system. And it is energizing yet calming. So it's like that yin and yang that I love about it. Those are some of my go-tos when I think about things that are going to keep me kind of in flow during the day. It's not so much of this jittery, like, oh my God, I got to, just, whoa, I need to run around the block. But more of like, man, I'm energized, but I'm clear and I'm focused and I'm calm. That's how it's affected me. And it wasn't right away. It took maybe about a month and a half. And sometimes certain herbs and things of that nature will take anywhere from 1, 2, 3 months to really soak into the body from certain doctors that I've listened to. Same thing with vitamins, minerals, herbs, things of that nature. And so I remember it kind of kicking into gear after a month's worth of use back, a few years ago. And I try my best to kind of single things out. It's hard because I love testing so many things just to kind of get, okay, this is the one that's really doing it. And I have kind of singled this out for the most part. I wouldn't say 100%, but for the most part, I have done some, testing. Okay, let's just do this and this alone. But real quick, guys, I mean, we haven't even talked about really what it is. So, He Shou Wu, and
if I can step in here, Emilio, for 1 second, in case you guys are, most of you are probably driving around, working out, whatever, as you're listening to this based on how podcast statistics go. But if you are at a place where you're trying to look this up, again, we've mentioned Jing herbs, dragon herbs. Those are going to be two very reputable sources out there. But if you're looking at this He Shou Wu, you're also going to find it under the name Faux Tea. It's FO-TI, Faux Tea. That's going to be its more common name. You might also see it out there as Polygonum, Multiflorum. Those are going to be some other names out there that you see it by, but it's all the same thing. It just depends on how you're using it. And I would say, just for me personally, using the extract in its purest form, you're going to pay a little bit more for it. But anything that is good is going to be worth, it's going to be worth the cost out there. But just doing it in a single, especially like a hard pill-based form, probably not going to be the direction that I'll just go out and say, I'm not going to recommend that. It's going to be the powder, just as Emilio said. And I know through Jing Herbs, they do sell the 50-gram packet. If you guys haven't tried this and you want to start out, that's going to be super, like I said, reputable. I know the people there. They do great work. Always at the Bulletproof Conference each year. They put out fantastic products, and the extract through them is going to be where I would personally recommend. And I know, Emilio, I can speak for you as well. But it's going to be found underneath those names as well, in case you guys are looking it up.
Yeah. And so this, it's basically a prepared tuberous root, basically a plant that grows in the mountains of central and southern China. It's I think goes along with the tonic herbalism with the goji berry, kind of around that tonic. I don't know if they're grown in the same area, but they go kind of hand in hand. But again, guys, the biggest thing is about this tonic is longevity tonic. We've talked about a lot of cells in the past. So what I love about this is that it can help regenerate tissues and actually promote new stem cell growth. It's been helping, gray hair, like people who have gray hair, kind of grows in a more youthful color. And it just kind of, and that is strongly kind of an indication of the improved functions going on deeper in the body when that's able to happen, externally. A lot of the research and science that modern science has been capturing is that, yes, it is great for a longevity tonic. The biggest help is with inflammation. When you look at modern science, looking at our aging and our telomeres, the more inflammation we have in our bodies, the shorter lives we live. That's one of the biggest things that I would say it helps out with, amongst the various things I'm sure we're going to go into right now. But the biggest thing is with inflammation. And so I'm just always a fan. Anytime I hear that, I want to add it to my arsenal, as I'm sure you are.
A ton of scientific studies confirm that this He Shou Wu has been shown to stimulate a superoxide dismutase. So what that is, that's the most potent antioxidant and free radical scavenger that you guys can find out there in the human body. So we've talked about before, really getting down to the cellular level. I know that's what excites both of us. Free radicals, bad idea. Bad things out there can happen. And we can go into 10 podcast episodes on that. This is going to help you guys really stimulate that superoxide dismutase, which is going to be the most potent antioxidant and scavenger for those free radicals that can be found in the human body. Okay, so number one, I guess you could point to this as saying longevity. youthfulness, really helping you clear up those free radicals. The other thing that you can read on Qigong Herb's website and a couple other places is it talks about how it produces an effect that helps your blood. It's going to strengthen the membranes of your red blood cells and promote their growth. So there's going to be a strong correlation between proper circulation and healthy energy levels, which is just going to help you feel better, help get a lot of the good circulation going in your body. That's what a lot of people comment on this type of product and using it for us, especially as men. Women can use this as well, but for men and women, helping with fertility, helping with semen production, helping with all kinds of stuff that's going to help you guys. If that's kind of an area you're trying, I would say try this out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That superoxide dismutase, the SOD, is huge. And like you said, strengthening the membranes of the red blood cells is huge too now. It also stimulates the growth of erythrocytes, which are really important for your immune system, basically. And I know that's actually what gives the red color in the red blood and really kind of transports the oxygen and carbon dioxide to and from the tissue. So yeah, so definitely a lot of benefits. I know in addition to everything that you said, there is a lot of things that it does in terms of Chinese medicine for the kidneys, the liver, you said the blood, strengthening the spine, knees, ankles, and again, rejuvenating the reproductive organs. On a high performance level, I know it strengthens muscles, tendons, and nerves. If you're starting to, increase your inflammation and you're having problems with, let's say insomnia, cholesterol levels, constipation, it also helps with that. Just a lot of great things. But again, one of the most beneficial or things that I love about it, like we were talking about, is that inflammation and longevity, just really expanding our telomeres, being able to live longer, things of that.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about a lot of different things here that this can, help facilitate, but really a lot of what you and I captured there and that information we just told is really kind of under the umbrella of protection from disease. So again, if you look at the studies of this, there are various medical treatments used with it where they're treating things like, there's a ton of stuff, right? But things in the research is liver injury, cancer, diabetes, all those sort of things, and then neurodegenerative diseases as well with the brain. But a lot of that is under that anti-inflammatory property.
Right.
And, you mentioned the SOD, the superoxide dismutase. I'd said that that's a free radical scavenger. That's going to kill the harmful oxygen molecules in the cells, which may cause damage over time to your tissues. That's why a lot of people say this is kind of a, not necessarily anti-aging as much as it is for longevity, but you could take it there and say, anytime you're doing anything that keeps your tissue from breaking down internally, even at a cellular level, anytime you're increasing those antioxidant levels and protecting yourself from disease, that to me is an anti-aging tool that we can use every day.
Yeah. What I didn't know is that SOD, the superoxide dismutase, that it's kind of along the same lines with like glutathione. We've talked about glutathione and
right.
There's catalase and things like that in terms of antioxidants. And so, I know that glutathione, we talk about that a lot in Bulletproof in terms of being the most powerful antioxidant. But, superoxide dismutase as well, along with catalase, all just free radical scavengers. And I don't know if we've talked about this. Are you familiar with Qigong, or have you ever practiced Qigong at all?
Probably a year and a half ago, whenever I was really kind of on my journey back, for lack of better words, where I was really breaking out of my brain fog and being burnt out and all that. And really what led to the podcast and everything that I've been through on this journey that I've been on. I really, for a short time, I got turned on to it, and I probably just didn't study enough about it. But based on what sources I saw, it seemed like a pretty fascinating routine to build in. For whatever reason, I didn't stick with it. I remember thinking like, wow, this is really interesting. I haven't heard this before. And the stuff I read on it just seemed awesome.
Yeah. And the only reason I bring that up is, I've been hearing about it, for the past 10 years, like from, books, conferences, people. Recently, I had Thaddeus from Primal Hacker when we were at the biohacking sanctuary retreat. He led some Qigong type practices, some energy work for high performance. And I want to get more into it. I've done just kind of the beginner level things. It's very fascinating to me, just the energy that I can feel within my body or around me as I like hold the ball in midair that's not there, right? Feeling it. Well, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the other things that I know about He Shou Wu is its ability to accumulate tremendous quantities of qi into its root. And so that's why actually this herb can tonify the human and actual animal organs and can tonify and nourish the blood.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Qigong, and now we're bringing it up. I mean, I just haven't thought about it in so long. Now that we're bringing it back up, it makes me want to go and look at it again. But I think the thing that turned me onto it the most was if you're doing, a lot of yoga is great, right? Especially athletic yoga and things like that really help strengthen and build instead of just stretch. A lot of people get a little bit bored, I guess, with yoga. They're just kind of holding that pose for so long, and the benefits are great, but it's like, I need some more movement, right? And so what Qigong was really described to me was it's this exercise that composes of movements that are repeated, and it's stretching the body. It's increasing fluid movement, like your blood and your lymph. And it's a lot of, not tapping. It's not tapping, but it's a lot of hitting, right? It's a lot like kind of hitting your back, hitting your kidneys, hitting your liver, hitting your legs, really just getting a lot of that fluid moving, getting a lot of circulation going, and building that in with the strength and the stretching and all of that. So I think it's going to gain, it's super popular in some pockets out there, but I think as more and more people tap into the ideas of stretching and yoga and things like that, Qigong is going to be one of those things that's, it's a little bit more movement and can kind of keep you focused a little bit more on it.
Yeah. I mean, when I just think about energy, I just think about it all around. I mean, when you look at the science too, I mean, us and everything in nature is energy, vibration, frequencies. Everything has a vibration. Everything has a frequency. They can measure this nowadays. And Qigong helps to maximize that, increase that. And so, the higher you are elevating at frequency-wise, vibration-wise, energy-wise, you're going to be attracting a whole lot more. And so when I think about eating certain things or doing certain things that are increasing that energy, that chi, that frequency, that vibration, it's just that whole journey that we're both on that, more things are going to be starting to come into your life. I've just been seeing that more and more, and I know that you have as well. And so that's just really cool to me. I really like the fact that a lot of people and organizations are flocking to this balance or cross between ancient wisdom mixed with, the modern science or the biohacking. And, I think that's where Primal Hacker comes into play, right? That's kind of
their tagline.
Yeah. It's their primal wisdom, the ancient wisdom, along with biohacking. I'll be speaking shortly with James Broderick, who has Ancestral Health Radio. And I know his is very much similar to that as well in terms of ancient wisdom and some of the modern stuff that's going on, kind of having that blend. And so when I think about this ancient wisdom of He Shou Wu and everything that we've been talking about on this podcast, I know we've talked about PEMF. I know I'm a big, believer of that and practitioner of that. I'm not sure if we talked about this in the past, but when you're exercising the cells, that cell membrane becomes a whole lot more porous. So everything that you're ingesting, whether that be diet or the nutrition in your diet or in supplements, that's going to be absorbed into the cells a whole lot better. And a lot of people these days are not absorbing things, the right way. So, even on that standpoint, I've just been recently talking to them, and that's why I'm thinking about this right now, is that when you're doing that, there's that biohacking, there's that modern technology that's enabling the cells to become more porous. Then you're having this ancient wisdom of this Chinese herb that is so good for you, but now can be absorbed a whole lot more efficient and effective into the body, into the cells. The next thing you know, you're combining those two. Now you're operating, on a higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to, I kind of had my finger on this until the right time here, and I knew I'd forget it if I didn't come back to it. So I've just been kind of holding this thought. But I think for me, and just like I said, the journey that I've been on, if we get back to the He Shou Wu and really what I started taking it for, not only the circulation and the blood cell development and, those sort of things, inflammation, all of that, which is great. I needed that as well. But really, it's one of the leading things out there if you look at the research done on it for lowered stress levels. So if you refer back, you and I have talked about my episode with Dan Moriarty, which I think is episode 124 or 129. If you guys want to go back and listen to that, where we talked about his company, Sunhorse Energy, that I was just blown away by his research for 40 plus years on adaptogenic herbs. And I mean, that's what this is. This is an adaptogen. The He Shou Wu, it's an adaptogen that works with your body, and it's going to create that balance, the harmony. You mentioned it earlier. You said it was kind of would you say it was kind of a yin herb? And I used to hear that like, yin herb, like, what is that? Cut the crap. What is that? And it's like, no, that's a real thing. Like I had to like dig into it a little bit more, but it's a yin herb, which means, for lack of better words, it's going to be, people are going to feel calmer. They're going to feel more balanced. They're going to feel both internally and externally, mind and body with this herb. So it's going to do all of the stuff that we're talking about. And the reason that I was excited to bring it out today in our conversation was I just think people aren't, not only this, but a ton of stuff out there, people just aren't tapping into, whether they think it's, oh, that's a fad, or oh, that's just common stuff in my kitchen, my parents' kitchen recipe that I grew up on, cinnamon, those sort of things that we could go into, right? That just people are like, cinnamon, yeah, whatever. They don't realize what the amazing benefits of this stuff is. And so this is one certainly that I was excited to bring out to the listeners for actionable results to get people toward higher levels of peak performance. And I hope you guys go out there and tap into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm recently in the move to Austin, Texas from Houston, Texas, and I'll be actually getting my place January 1st. I'm kind of in transition right now with my sister and whatnot. But the reason I bring this up is because, as I'm moving, I think, okay, let me narrow down some of the things that I want in terms of technologies, not necessarily narrow it down because I love trying all things. I always will. But, you want to know what works for you with who you are, your genes, your epigenetics, just how you live your lifestyle, what your routine is, what your day-to-day schedule looks like. And so as I move, I'm thinking about, okay, what are the main go-tos that I have, be it, biohacks, technologies, supplements, things of that nature that I can, open my cabinet and get right away. Because, as I've been traveling, I've been using a lot of my products and everything. And actually in the past couple of months, I haven't been using any products because I'm actually testing this Tri-Vibe. It's like this quantum physics thing that actually is supposed to bring up all my micronutrient levels. And that's potentially for another podcast. The reason I say this is because most of my supplements are gone, and now moving to Austin, Texas, January 1st, I'm thinking, okay, well, what are my main ones that I want to go ahead and buy again? And what am I going to just put on the shelf there? And this one is definitely one of my go-tos, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And you were talking about like spices and cinnamon and things of that nature. What's in the food? I mean, zinc, I don't know if we've talked about zinc in the past, but it's an essential trace mineral. It's required in all forms of life, numerous aspects of cellular metabolism. And a lot of people are deficient in zinc, and it plays so many important roles in the body, in growth and development, immune response, neurological function, and reproduction, like you talked about. It's not on everything else that we've been talking about with energy and all this other stuff, whether it be high performance or neuroprotective benefits, but it also contains, really essential and vital trace minerals, which are important for balance and to keep that high performance. So, guys, go ahead and do your due diligence and research, but this is one of the things that I love. This is one of my main ones. But as we kind of come to a close here, one of the things that I think about, especially coming into the holidays, is, we're going to be cooking a lot more, at least I am and my family, whether it's supplementation like this or just really anything that helps, like we were talking about earlier in the podcast, kind of making a full circle here in terms of not only longevity, but that biggest thing that helping out with inflammation and what other things. Well, as we're cooking, guys, as we start to hack the holidays, maybe we'll come up with a podcast with that in the future for hacking the holidays. But spices, I love using spices, and I love diving into different cultures and seeing what spices they use, not only for taste, but of course, things that help the body and especially decrease inflammation. And I know we've had these topics before, Jarrod. Do you have any favorite spices, or do you know some spices either for the holidays or things that decrease inflammation?
Yeah. And I think this is a perfect time to mention it as we wrap up here, because we were just talking about, I kind of led off with just the fact that there are everyday spices out there, just like there are everyday herbs that you can find that just a lot of people aren't talking about, right? But people hear that inflammation, even in the biohacking community, and they're like, oh yeah, inflammation. Okay, I'm supposed to reduce that. It's a big deal, guys. I mean, it's not something to be taken lightly. I mean, fill in the blank, right? There's a ton of diseases linked with inflammation, tons. We could go on and on, but cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, which is always a fascination for me because there's no cure for that. It's like, how can we keep ourselves from being there? And then things like brain fog, cognitive function, eroding your mind, those sort of things. I mean, heart disease, inflammation is going to have to do with all of that. But there are a couple of things that really will help in your pantry. It might even be in your pantry right now that you really don't have to accept inflammation and all that stuff I mentioned as a way of your modern life. I mean, herbs, spices, those sort of things that really quell that inflammation in your body. I mean, one of the bigger ones that you guys hear about probably all the time that is talked about is going to be turmeric or curcumin. That's super anti-inflammatory. Yeah. And, it's kind of that yellow pigment that you see. I saw an article just this week talking about, mixing it in with your toothpaste to help prevent gum disease and those sort of things. I may post that out later. I need to read it, but I flagged it this week. Curcumin, turmeric, super antioxidant, combats cancer, and you can find that or put that in curries, soups, whatever. I mean, it's awesome. Vegetable juice, I've tried it before. And the other one that I'll mention, and this is not a comprehensive list, this is just some of the simple things you guys may have at home already that you're not thinking about, but green tea. Green tea is a big one. Some people out there want to get away from coffee, or they want still the caffeine kick, but they they want to try something new, there's huge benefits in green tea. Protects against cardiovascular disease and cancer, protects against inflammation, as I mentioned, protects for some people out there who are already experiencing arthritis, for some of our older generations out there. That's going to reduce that. Again, the blood flow, circulation, digestive tract. There's so many benefits to green tea, especially if you have Crohn's disease. Research is finding out now that green tea is one of the best things that you can do on a regular basis to really help conditions like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, people that deal with just all the GI tract stuff out there. So if you drink 3 to 4 cups, just small cups of green tea each day, that's going to have tremendous benefits that you guys may not be thinking about. And you can get that in caffeinated or decaffeinated as well.
You ever do the green tea elixir that Tim Ferriss does?
I don't. I've heard about it, but I haven't studied it enough to know.
It all the time.
Just real quick, tell us what that is.
Yeah, it's green tea mixed with pu'er tea, which is like the only fermented tea. It's like one of the best teas out there. Pu'er, P-U-R-E-H, I believe, pu'er. So green tea, pu'er tea, ginger, turmeric. I put some brain octane oil and or some butter and I mix it all together. Just lights me up, man.
Holy cow. I can't believe you haven't mentioned that yet. I mean, that sounds like an awesome drink. So the other thing that I've really gotten into probably over the last 6 months after reading more about it is resveratrol. And you guys probably know that. And there's tons of different ways that you can get that out there. But the most common one is in skins of red wine grapes. And so the super strong anti-inflammatory, also protects against DNA damage, mutations of cells that could cause cancer. The biggest one for me is grapeseed extract that I take each day, but you can also take resveratrol in an extract form. Red wine, especially if you're doing dry farm wines, the way that they process that, that's a great supplement to be able to take. And then lastly, just things that are super simple, rosemary and then cinnamon, Ceylon cinnamon. That is a huge one that over the last year has been a real game changer for me. Because in addition to that being anti-inflammatory, it's been shown to have really powerful antioxidant, anti-diabetic, super antimicrobial and anti-cancer, all the things in there, again, going back to the free radicals that we want things in there to scavenge for in our body, because let's face it, in our Western diet and with our habits, it's not doing it on its own. Mm-hmm. So we have to supplement this stuff. But cinnamon also in many studies, more recent, has been able to show that it protects against neurological disorders, even Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. So all of this, guys, as we wrap up here, are just very simple things. Again, as Emilio said, do your own research. But a lot of these things that are right in front of you that just seem like, oh, I've seen that my whole life. How could that really be helpful? I would encourage you to go do your research and really dig into that. When you guys are cooking or you guys are, even the drink that you just mentioned from Tim Ferriss, I've heard about that plenty of times before. I've just never tried it. All of that stuff, if you guys want to start building that into your day-to-day regimen, just for the anti-inflammatory benefits alone, all of these things are going to help you guys lead lives towards higher levels of peak performance. And that's really what it's all about, is feeling your best, being your best, really thriving without just getting all the breakdown that can come with not doing things like this or not being aware of it.
And, I wanted to just add something really quick. When we're talking about herbs and spices, it's good to get like quality stuff too.
Absolutely.
Because, the herb and spice industry, guys, a lot of people are just like, oh, no big deal. It's just spice, whatever. Dude, the herb and spice industry is painfully aware of spoilage issues, which is why it's become so common to, radiate spices. And so, as a bulletproof coach, what I like, the Bulletproof Diet book, if you guys don't have it, it details how and why this happens and all the best practices to pick the best spices and herbs, especially what's going on in the way we have farming practices these days. Sometimes, one particular one like black pepper used to be good, but given farming practices and things of that nature, right, it may not be so good. It's kind of like in the middle and you got to be careful and there's a risk there. And so if you want to learn more details and stuff, just to kind of bulletproof your spice cabinet or your herb cabinet, Bulletproof Diet book is a good one. Of course, there's a whole bunch more out there. I know some other ones that just pop into my mind right now that are good. The ones on top of all the great ones you mentioned is also cloves, sage, and cayenne are some really good ones. But I think when you're going out there and getting any of the ones that we've mentioned is to definitely go quality, guys, because you're going to be putting on, you wouldn't want to have like a great breakfast, lunch, or dinner and then just topping it off with some things that are going to just be causing some inflammation and then all your hard work for nothing. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. And a lot of these things too can seem like they are quality, quote unquote, or they can have, fancy marketing or attractive packages, or you can even see people talking about them online, whatever. They haven't done really the research that maybe guys like you and I who are living this thing out every day are going to do. And it could be quality ingredients. It could be okay, but based on the way you're taking it and the way it gets eaten up in your GI tract and all through your stomach, it never even makes it to where it's supposed to go. Right. So again, I mean, you could just be wasting tons of money and not really getting any effect out of that at all. So I think that's a great point to mention. Guys, we thank you so much for being here with us. We couldn't do this without you. It's all about you. We're here recording week after week and doing the research for you guys, but it's all about you because you're the ones listening and downloading. So share this with someone that you care about, that you feel like would benefit from a peak performance message. If you'd like to connect with Emilio, the best way to do that is emilio@crossphoenixcoaching.com. Or if you want to shoot me a message, it's info@success101podcast.com. And you can also catch us out there on several social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram. And man, what a great time. I think this was awesome. And being aware of the small things right underneath our nose each day that they're not even paying attention to, reaching higher levels of peak performance. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll catch you on the next awesome episode. Take care.